Good afternoon. Welcome to the virtual tour of the General Kuklinski Cold War Museum in Warsaw, Poland. I'm Amanda Olke, Director of Adult Education at the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we are partnering with the General Kuklinski Museum and the Embassy of Poland to give those of us not in Poland access to this wonderful new museum. I had the pleasure of meeting the museum director, Filip Frackowiak, in the summer of 2023 and hearing about the plans for the museum. And I was so delighted when he reached out last fall and told me it was open. And I can't wait to ask some questions to Filip about what we've seen. But first, I want to introduce my colleague from the embassy. Katarzyna Rybka Iwańska is the first counselor, head of communications and diplomacy section of the Embassy of the Republic of Poland. And it's great to partner with you again.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. It's really a pleasure. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this special event organized by the International Spy Museum. First and foremost, and again, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to my good friend and collaborator, Amanda Olke, for bringing us together once again. Amanda, your work has opened up an exciting chapter of cooperation between our embassy, and the Spy Museum, and we are thrilled to continue building on this partnership. It is a pleasure to be back with you all for another meaningful conversation. Today's event will shine a light on the General Ryszard Kuklinski Cold War Museum in Warsaw, which is an extraordinary institution telling the story of the Cold War from the perspective of Central Europe. For our region, the Cold War was not just a geopolitical struggle, but a deeply personal and often terrifying reality for millions of people. The Cold War demanded courage, bravery, and the willingness to stand against the Soviet Empire and the authoritarian forces of communism. For Poland, the years of the Cold War were marked by a unique and tragic history. In the aftermath of World War II, we found ourselves on the wrong side of the Iron Curtain, under the control of a totalitarian regime imposed by the Soviet Union. For over 40 years, we struggled to regain our freedom. However, the determined spirit of the Polish people, inspired by the words of Pope John Paul II, "Do not be afraid," kept the flame of resistance alive. On a global scale, the Cold War was defined by the intense rivalry between the United States and the USSR, with the world constantly teetering on the edge of nuclear conflict. It was a time of high tension and deep fear, but also one of immense courage and determination, and we will see more about that in just a second. In Poland and Central Europe, the Solidarity movement marked a turning point towards freedom. The brave men and women who stood up against communism were not alone. They were supported by many Americans, including President Ronald Reagan, a great political leader and a close friend of Pope John Paul II. During those difficult years of the 1980s, the people of the United States, the Poles knew that they had a steadfast friend in the United States, and this support gave us strength to continue the fight for freedom. When Poland emerged from communism in 1989, we were determined to build a new future, one grounded in democracy, freedom, and security. Our accession to NATO on March 12, 1999, exactly 26 years ago, was a historic moment that symbolized our return to the safe side of history. I remember that day vividly as a teenager living in a small town on Poland's border with the Kaliningrad Oblast, which is a heavily militarized Russian exclave. It was the first time my hometown truly felt safe and secure. It marked the beginning of a new chapter for Poland and for our region. Today, we proudly contribute to NATO's collective security, standing as the leading defense spender in the alliance. Last year, Poland committed 4.12% of our GDP to defense, and it will be 4.7% in 2025. Much of this investment is directed toward modernizing our armed forces, with significant contributions from the United States, including the purchase of F-35 fighter jets, Abrams tanks, Patriot missile systems, HIMARS howitzers, and Apache helicopters. As of today, Poland's defense procurements from the US total $55 billion, reflecting our deep commitment to securing our country and strengthening the transatlantic bond. We are deeply proud of what Poland has become today, but we never forget the price of freedom. Our history has been shaped by struggles for independence and sovereignty, and we understand the true cost of liberty and prosperity. The sacrifices and contributions made by so many Poles, Polish Americans, and Americans who stood with us in the fight for freedom have brought us to this point. We are committed to cherishing and nurturing future we've built, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. I would like to extend a special thank you to Filip Frackowiak, the director of the Cold War Museum, for his dedication to preserving the history. I am confident that today's virtual tour and discussion especially will offer us all a deeper understanding of the courage and sacrifice that define the Cold War era. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the event.
Thank you so much, Katarzyna, and thank you for really giving your own personal connection to this very important day. And we're going to hear some more personal connections as we talk to Filip. So it really is meaningful to have this event today. Now, here's Filip from Warsaw.
Welcome to General Kuklinski Cold War Museum. Our exposition presents the Cold War era from the perspective of Eastern Central European region, and with a special role of General Ryszard Kuklinski. Our exposition starts with meeting of the big three leaders in Yalta and Potsdam, when the United States and Great Britain led the Soviets to occupy and capture Eastern and Central European states. When the Red Army reached Berlin, they stayed there till 1991. By the end of World War II, the Red Army is pursuing the Nazis through Polish territory, eventually reaching Berlin with no intention of retreating. Look at this photo. Flag raising by Red Army soldiers over the Reichstag building in Berlin, 1945. Look at this document. It is a famous act called the Marshall Plan. While the Western states are recovering thanks to the Marshall Plan, the Central Eastern European states struggles against the communism. Look at this map. The Soviets covered almost half of Europe, and while the last soldiers of the Republic of Poland who were fighting against Nazi Germany during the World War II, they were fighting after 1945 against the Stalinism and against the legalization of communism in Poland. That is why we quote Joseph Stalin here. It's not the people who vote that count, it's the people who count the votes. This young Polish army officer is Ryszard Kuklinski and his wife Joanna. In 20 years, he started cooperation with the CIA and will send to the United States about 40,000 pages of Warsaw Pact and USSR, with plans of the nuclear attack on Western Europe. Thanks to this cooperation, Kuklinski will help to avoid this offensive. Let's meet the next room. The division of Germany and the Berlin crisis. Germany was divided in 4 zones after the World War II. Thanks to US Army presence in Germany, the Soviets couldn't spread the sphere of influence over the whole state of Germany. During the first Berlin crisis and the second crisis, we were really close to the confrontation of the USSR and the USA. We are passing by the checkpoint Charlie. We are leaving the American sector. In 1964, Ryszard Kuklinski began his service in the General Staff of the Polish Army. He found out that there is Soviet nuclear weapon at the territory of Poland. Because he became a liaison officer between the Warsaw Pact and Polish Army, he realized that Warsaw Pact has operation plans to attack Western Europe using Polish Army. He also realized that Polish Army is under the command of Soviet marshals and generals. For example, in 1968, there was an order from Moscow to attack Czechoslovakia with other Warsaw Pact states. So when Kuklinski saw the plans of Soviet Russia and Warsaw Pact to attack the Western states, Western Europe, with the nuclear weapon established at the Polish territory, he decided to do something. What he could do to stop these plans? Let's see. Look at this yacht cruise that Kuklinski organized with the officers of the Staff General of the People's Army of Poland. Kuklinski suggested they may go to Denmark and the Netherlands and Belgium to have a study cruise, let's say clandestine cruise. While this, he sent a letter to the US Embassy in Bonn establishing a cooperation between the United States and this one and only officer of the Polish Army. During the first meeting between Ryszard Kuklinski and CIA officers, who after years called his mission as the most important clandestine mission during the Cold War era, Kuklinski gave them a special document called Declaration of Intent. It was August 18, 1972. We Poles belong to the Soviet bloc now, but this was not our choice. It was settled between you and the Russians. So Kuklinski in the first sentence did not say that he wanted to be the CIA agent. In the case of war, a defensive war against your aggression, we would be with the Russians and other countries of the Warsaw Pact. However, this is a highly improbable, if not impossible, scenario. We do not want to participate in any aggressive war against NATO, against the West. Kuklinski wanted to prevent the war. Now we are getting into victims of communism room. Exactly over my head there was a communist militia station where young man Grzegorz Przemyk, whose face you can see here, he was innocent victim of communism. He was beaten to death just because his mother was connected, affiliated with Solidarity movement. In memory of the victims of communism. Imagine there was more victims of communism than number of victims of Nazism. China, 65 million. USSR, 20 million. Cambodia, North Korea, Vietnam, 2 million. Poland, 150,000. Look at this map of forced labor camps in Soviet Russia and so-called Gulag children. All of those were victims of communism. What is interesting about our museum that we are underground the medieval buildings, so every brick survived the World War II and Warsaw Uprising. Also because of that, it's worth to visit our museum. For the entire period of USSR existing, in every state under communism, there were protests with calls for bread, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, and sovereignty. It was in Germany, in Czechoslovakia, in Poland, in Hungary, and here we have an original flag, Hungarian flag with the hole, which is the symbol of Hungarian uprising from 1956. Now let's face two friends and two heads of states who have huge influence on the Cold War era. Holy Father John Paul II and the President of the United States, Mr. Ronald Reagan. Great friends, great politicians, and their vision of future of Europe was a vision without communism. Look at this photo of 1984 summit in Alaska. Next to the border, let's say, with the USSR. It was so important signal to Moscow. We are together. And now, let's see the most important space in the museum, the room of maps. It doesn't matter if it's Tsarist Russia, Bolshevik Russia, Communist Russia, or let's say, frankly, Putin's Russia. Look at this map. It's operation plan for Polish army at the time of war. But why? It is in Russian language. Because it was created in 1964 and signed, approved by Marshal Griechko, the head of the Warsaw Pact. 500,000 Polish soldiers, following the order from Moscow, had to attack partly Western Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Belgium. The first purpose was Calais in France, so Polish soldiers had to be a cannon fodder for Soviet marshals and generals. This was the first strategic movement. The second strategic movement, the second echelon, was 2 million Soviet army marching along the territory of Poland to the Western Europe. Behind my back you can see the second variant of this map, called the offensive operation of the seashore. The same first strategic echelon, but with the missiles, Soviet missiles, targeted to the western cities. Here in Denmark Straits, the only way from the Baltic Sea to the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, and along the North Europe shore to the English Channel, Channel La Manche. Also, please see the blue areas, which are the NATO infrastructure in Western Germany. So Soviets wanted to hit from the territory of Poland the US Army infrastructure in Western Europe. What was the worst scenario for Poland? The scenario of counterattack. And we have here the map from 1979, showing with the red mushrooms the offensive from the Warsaw Pact and the counter-offensive on the territory of Poland. So the Staff General of the Communist Poland was predicting that there will be from 70 to 300 hits, nuclear hits from NATO to stop Soviet army marching along the territory of Poland. And that is why Kuklinski decided to send these maps to the United States to prevent this crazy war of Soviets. If you want to see the Caribbean crisis from the perspective of Soviet submarine, take a look into this periscope. Can you imagine that at the beginning of the space race, the USSR had a technological advantage over the USA? Here we have an iron curtain which was designed by Eva Braun, who got an Oscar for Best Set Decoration for Schindler's List. And if you want to play virtual games, you can see it here by the desk of Colonel Ryszard Kuklinski and became Ryszard Kuklinski in his office. After 9 years, Kuklinski's mission tended to the end. He had to escape to the United States in November 1981. It was extremely difficult mission to take Kuklinski and his family to the United States. Kuklinski family had to change their identity, but the Soviets, KGB, found them in the United States, and they wanted to kidnap Kuklinski. But the CIA avoided this. In 1984, in absentia, the Polish military card, the Communist Poland military card, sentenced him to death. Among the different kinds of historical artifacts in the museum, the special one is the Distinguished Intelligence Medal, which Ryszard Kuklinski has been awarded for his mission by the director of the CIA, Mr. William Casey. If you seek the proof how Kuklinski helped the United States to win the Cold War, look into the National Security Archive, the Reykjavik file. While President Ronald Reagan was negotiating with Mikhail Gorbachev in Reykjavik 1986, he said, "I cannot agree for such a presence of your mid-range missiles with nuclear warheads in Central Eastern Europe and in Asia, because I saw your maps where your missiles are targeted to the Western cities." And these were these maps that Kuklinski sent to United States, and I was presenting a moment before. In 1993, the last Russian troops left territory of Poland. In the 90s, Kuklinski wanted to get back to Poland, but still this sentence from 1984 was in effect. So in 1995, Kuklinski visited the Holy Father John Paul II in Vatican, but traveling no via Poland, but via Switzerland. So in 1997, President Bill Clinton announced that Poland soon will be in NATO. 2 hours later, he asked President Kwaśniewski of Poland, how about Colonel Kuklinski, who helped the United States to win the Cold War, who helped NATO to win the Cold War. And within 2 months, Ryszard Kuklinski became acquitted. Kuklinski back to Poland in 1998 and passed away in 2004. Posthumously, he was awarded the rank of general. And let me say at the end about this plaque devoted to David Forden, the CIA officer who cooperated with Ryszard Kuklinski between 1973 and 1981. He became the chief of Central Eastern Europe and Soviet division in the CIA in Langley after the mission with Kuklinski. As his daughter Sarah Forden described when he passed away in 2019, Kuklinski's picture was next to David's bed. Thank you for your attention. I hope you liked the tour and looking forward to see you in Warsaw.
Here we go. After viewing the video, immediately from that opening shot, tell us more about this incredible building that houses your museum. And you mentioned during the tour that it was a communist military building and also built in medieval times. Please tell us more. It was such a beautiful opening shot.
Hello, Amanda. Thank you very much. Just let me say at the beginning that it's a great honor and privilege for me and the museum, our team, to be your partners today. And I want to say hello and send greetings from Warsaw to all subscribers of the International Spy Museum. Yes, our building is located in the heart of the old town, just 100 meters from the royal castle and next to the main cathedral. So it means that because part of our exposition it is the undergrounds, and so we have bricks and even stones from 14th century, and the stones served as a foundations. So yes, we touch the history also in this building, exactly in our building, and this room where we created the victims of communism room. It was a part of the former communist militia station, and it is well known during the communist era, and of course now, because in that station a young man 18 years old Grzegorz Przemyk was beaten to death in 1983 just just because his mother was a poet connected, affiliated with the Solidarity movement. So it was the unfortunately, I should say, a perfect place to create this victims of communism room.
And tell us a little bit about the room. You're actually in the museum broadcasting to us today.
Uh, this room, this is 80s room. I mean, you can see the time axis on my right and left side, and as you know, the 80s were extremely rich in many very important political and not only political events. But behind me, you can see the map presenting the routes how uh, Russian at that time, I mean in 1993, soldiers, which route took took the Russian soldiers who wanted to leave the territory of Poland and Eastern Germany. So once again, the map presents bases of Soviet soldiers in Poland and the routes they were leaving. Uh, I would say, unfortunately, they were leaving also to Kaliningrad Oblast, Kaliningrad exclave, and this is a threat, let's say, for Europe now. And what else? On my left side, on my left side, you can see the red star from the gate of Soviet base in Poland, the original one. And on the right side, there is a plaque that our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski, took out of the border between Poland and the USSR next to Kaliningrad. So he few weeks decided to give us this memorabilia, this artifact.
It's really cool to see you there in the museum. Now, we promised in the description of the program that we would answer the following question. Why did Professor Brzezinski call Kuklinski the first Polish officer in NATO? And as we're celebrating the anniversary today, tell us more.
I mean, he called Kuklinski the first Polish officer in NATO in early 90s when Poland there was consensus in Poland to take the NATO direction. And uh, Professor Brzezinski asked President Lech Wałęsa of Poland to acquit Kuklinski because still the sentence from the 1984 on Kuklinski from communist era by the communist court of Poland was in effect. So anyway, when Poland was closer and closer to NATO, but still we were negotiating, still we were discussing the case of NATO accession in Poland. This sentence, Ryszard Kuklinski, the first Polish officer in NATO, was had a very significant meaning politically. I mean, it meant that we need to acquit Kuklinski and link his case with accession of Poland to NATO.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, you said this question was going to be really hard for you. What do you consider to be your most significant artifact?
For sure, the most important, most significant artifact in our museum is the Distinguished Intelligence Medal Colonel Kuklinski received uh, between November 1981 and February 1982, when he escaped from the communist Poland, and he received this medal. There is an inscription, Colonel Ryszard Kuklinski. At that time, it was the highest award from the CIA, as far as I know, but for sure you know that, the highest award. And Kuklinski wanted to get back to Poland in late 90s. He got a stroke, suffered a stroke, and he passed away in 2004. So I should say it took us to find this distinguished intelligence medal and bring it to Poland. It took us 20 years, but yes, we have it. And Colonel Kuklinski wanted to have it in Poland for sure. Now, I'm saying from time to time Colonel Kuklinski, or sometimes, and you know that the name of the museum is General Kuklinski, as Ryszard Kuklinski in 2016 was posthumously awarded to the rank of general. So, yes, from today's point of view, now from nowadays, he is a general. But when we talk about the time of 80s, for example, or 70s, of course, at that time he was a colonel.
Mhm. And our audience is pretty savvy about history, so they understand that names and titles, all sorts of things change. So I think they're going to be okay with us if sometimes we say colonel. Um,
Right.
Sticking on the artifact path just for a moment, and on the virtual tour in the map room, several times we glimpse a uniform, and as a museum person and object person, I thought, "Gosh, what is that?" So you have to tell me.
Uh, this is a code for parade uniform of Soviet air forces. Uh, what what a Cold War museum we could be without a Soviet uniform. So next to this code, we have AK-47 submachine gun, which was or sometimes still is the symbol of the Soviet influences, military influences in huge part of the world. So right next to the maps of the Soviet invasion, we have this code of Soviet Air Force uniform.
Sometime when we're talking personally, I'll ask you if it's as much work to display a weapon in Poland as it is at a museum in DC. So that's for another conversation. What are your guests? You've had guests through a bit now. What are they finding most interesting or surprising? Is there something that everyone seems particularly drawn to?
I mean, definitely the most surprising part of our museum for our guests, these are maps of the Warsaw Pact and the offensive of the Warsaw Pact on Western Europe, on NATO infrastructure, and it is priceless to see faces of our friends from Germany and the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Denmark. See the places where the Soviets wanted to hit with the nuclear with the missiles, with the nuclear warheads. So it wasn't, of course, Polish plans, because we were completely dependent on Moscow. So the most one of the most important is the 1964 map called in Russian language, operation plan for Polish army at the time of war, which was approved by Marshal Griechko, the commander of the Warsaw Pact. What a strange situation that the title of this map is Operation Plan for Polish Army at the time of war. What war? So yes, that is why we decided to establish this maps room, and also it is surprising for our guests that in so many states under the influence of Soviet Russia and Russia, the revolutions looked very similarly. I mean, at the beginning, there always there always been small guerrillas with fake freedom topics, things to solve in their states. Then they had KGB and KVD, then Soviet Army, and then they were fully used by by Moscow in the war with the West, with the United States. So similar cases were in Poland and in Korea and in Vietnam and also in Cuba, of course. And so the partnership between Havana and Moscow was in this way that that Moscow installed a nuclear weapon against the United States.
We teach a lot about that to a lot of school students, and what a extraordinary, and I mean extraordinary in a bad way, time. But we did survive that, thank goodness. And I think what you're saying always makes me realize how important it is to see the real thing. Really seeing those documents. Time moves on, history moves on, but what a thing to actually see those maps and see the plans. So you also, Katarzyna had a personal connection that she mentioned, but one of the reasons you wanted to have this job at the museum, can you share your personal connection to this museum?
Yes, sure, of course. I mean, what drove me to have this job, it was, of course, at the professional level. I was I was I'm an analyst of U.S. Russian relations. I was graduating international relations, but it was not a main factor. The story begins in 1985 when my father, who provide clandestine cooperation with Radio Free Europe as a journalist. He was caught by the communists and sentenced for 10 years. And they accused him of being the United States intelligence agent, as the communist propaganda linked Radio Free Europe as a division of the CIA in Europe. So, of course, in prison, he could read only the propaganda newspaper, and he read the sentence of the spokesman of the government, Mr. Jerzy Urban, who said after Colonel Kuklinski escaped to the West, in my father's apartment, the last CIA station was dismantled in Poland. So after years, we were laughing with my father that probably my teddy bears had mics in their nose and spy cameras in their eyes. But at that time, I was 5 years old, and what wasn't so funny, and but my father had no idea who Kuklinski was. So when they released him from prison, it was late December 1989. So he spent 6 months during the, let's say, Carnival of Freedom in Poland. Just let me say that first semi-democratic, but still elections we had in June. So we had new government and etc. So my father was the last political prisoner, and he went out from prison and started looking for this Colonel Kuklinski, and he realized that he's in the United States and his sentence is still in effect. So the tragedy for both of them, I mean, much bigger for Kuklinski, was that the communist sentences last longer than the communism in Poland. And my father found Kuklinski in 1992 in the United States, and he became his representative in Poland, his proxy, and they were working together very closely. And when Kuklinski passed away in 2004, my father decided to create this museum called Commemorative Chamber of Colonel Kuklinski. And then, when my father passed away in 2012, I decided to make the first museum in Poland that depicts what happened in Poland and Central Eastern Europe after 1945.
It's such an
So,
incredible story and such a great effort on your part, and it's exciting to see it come to such great fruition. This is the last question officially from me, and then I'll be asking some of the great questions we have from our audience. Our founding executive director, Peter Ernest, was a CIA officer, and he helped Ben Weiser doing the research within the CIA for his wonderful book on Kuklinski. So I have been familiar with this story for my probably 20 of my years at the Spy Museum, and we had several programs focusing on, he was then Colonel Kuklinski. And at one of the last ones, and we're going to send a link out to those of you who attend a program. Dave Forden, a number of the people that we see in your exhibition speak in this program. And Dave Forden, who's one of the last images you see, this CIA handler, you can see him make a few remarks in our live program. And I'm wondering, did you get a chance to meet anyone from the case? I know, you were, a kid with teddy bears for the early part of the story, but did you get to interview any of the players, or had they gone to their reward?
yes, I had this privilege and an honor, and met David Forden for the first time in 2014 in Warsaw. He visited he visited the museum, and with his family and his daughter Sarah Forden, and there was also. Yeah, and then we met for the second time in 2018 in the Cosmos Club in Washington, D.C. during the conference we were organizing. And as far as I know, it was his last public appearance, and we were really proud that he found the time and to be with us at that time. And also, I met Aris Papas, the analyst from the
Yes.
CIA. That
Uh,
he's a great Yeah, I will tell you. I'll tell it. He
We'd
is a
call him a
great,
character. We'd call him a character here, a big personality, big storyteller. Yes.
big storyteller. This is what I wanted to say.
Sorry to steal
Uh,
your words. I knew where you were going.
It was again a great honor for me, and of course I met with Colonel Kuklinski. I mean, before I met Ryszard Kuklinski, I used to talk to him by telephone because he couldn't travel to Poland before 1997. So as they were talking to each other with my father very often, it was also me talking to Kuklinski from time to time, and I met him for the first time in 1998 during his first visit in Warsaw. I remember when he asked, "Listen, uh, I saw Warsaw for the last time 14 years ago. Can we have a Warsaw by night ride?" And yes, we were driving the car around Warsaw, and he was really impressed. And what else? But then I spent a few weeks in Mr. Kuklinski house in Florida. So yes, it was my great honor to meet all this interesting people who were part of the history.
And, I certainly I knew that we have some of our board members and founding advisory board members who told me that they were coming, and I can see them online, and they're cheering because Kuklinski they worked with him, they have spoken with him, and he meant so much. So, people
Thank you
really
very much.
appreciate
Thank you
they
very
really
much. I
appreciate this.
appreciate.
All right, I'm going to turn over to we have a variety of questions, and several of them do turn on current affairs. One of our frequent guests says that in the Cold War, one of the central themes was Soviet expansion, especially in Central and Eastern Europe, and you were either an enemy or a vassal, do you feel, um, does this still hold true? Do Poles feel a threat from Russia today? And you may not want to answer that. It's okay.
Yes, that's okay. I mean, of course we do. The threat is permanent, and we used to uh, say, "Be careful of Russia, beware of Russia," because it doesn't matter if it's Tsarist Russia, Bolshevik Russia,
Mhm.
communist, or let's frankly say, don't want to make a politics, but
Right,
frankly
right.
speaking, Vladimir Putin's Russia. Um, we, I mean, they are exercising the attack, nuclear attack every year. They are exercising nuclear attack on Poland, on Warsaw. So the attack from Kaliningrad region. So we saw what happened in Georgia. We saw what happened in Ukraine 2014, and even earlier in 90s in Chechnya. So it's still Russia. So we need to be ready for everything. I mean, I'm pretty sure that everyone wants to have a good relations with Russia, but don't make this mistake. I mean, I, this is what Poland wanted to say. And the last thing on this case, every time the United States worked together with Poles since 1918, when thanks to President Woodrow Wilson, Poland was established on the map in 1918. So every every time the United States worked together with Poles, there was a strong democratic uh, region here in the Central Eastern Europe, and it stopped the imperialism in this region.
Mm.
I mean, when they were when the U.S. was listening, Paul's, the Solidarity Movement, John Paul II, and Ryszard Kuklinski reports, and opened NATO for Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary. It was good for peace, not only here in our region, but also I believe for the United States.
We ha-
And if that's okay. So, and when not, for example, in Yalta, when Poland, when President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Winston Churchill left Poland in Stalin's hands, it was an open gate. The Central Eastern European region was the open gate for Russia to go further. So the United States and the Great Britain changed their mind just 1 year later. And let me just say that we have the anniversary of containment doctrine today.
well, we have other current questions, but I want to get back to Kuklinski first, because he is. So we've got a lot going on in the questions, and they're great. And I just realized that Sarah Forden, David Forden's daughter, is online with us. So I wanted to recognize her, and I'm going to get to her question in 1 second, because another question about Kuklinski came in a little earlier that I wanted to ask first. And this person wanted to know, how is he kept safe for so many years? And I think she must mean after he came to the United States.
It wasn't so obvious. He wasn't so safe. Between 1981 and 1984, there were 2 attempts of kidnapping Kuklinski. So probably the agency avoided this. Unfortunately, because in 1984 sentence, there is an inscription that the communist secret service found Kuklinski in Virginia. So, and we know that that Warsaw sent a request to Havana to help find Polish Colonel Kuklinski in the United States. Then, both of Ryszard Kuklinski sons died in really strange circumstances. It was 1994, and the first one disappeared from the yacht at the Mexican Gulf, and the second one was hit by the car at the university campus. So it was a huge tragedy. Before 1992, Kuklinski couldn't speak Polish outside his house, and he couldn't even meet with, for example, members of Polish diaspora in the United States. I'm not talking about Professor Brzeziński or Jan Nowak-Jeziorański. He wanted to meet some Poles, but he couldn't.
Right. So turning to Sarah Forden's question, what are the lessons we can learn from the Kuklinski story for the challenges facing NATO today and the fast-paced changes in relations between Europe and the US, if you have any thoughts on that? Just a little question.
Yes. So again, there must be a strong link between the United States and Europe. Let's not talk about what is going on now, but the military link must be really strong. And what President Reagan did, and we know that he used the information from Kuklinski, because in We have such a document, the National Security Archive, and talks between Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan in Reykjavik. And Ronald Reagan said, listen, I cannot agree for such a presence of your mid-range ballistic missiles on the mobile platforms with nuclear warheads, because I saw your maps with your missiles targeted to the Western cities. So, I mean, just let Russia know, and let Russia know that we know that their plans, because they have offensive plans. It's not a secret
Right.
anymore. Uh, let's use it. Let's have such a policy now, and let's use it and be safer. And Kuklinski, it is sometimes it's funny for people because they are asking, listen, how it's possible that one man asked uh, the United States intelligence officers to change U.S. Military policy in Europe, uh, but it was he gave the United States the knowledge about Russian plans. Now we have this knowledge. The intelligence works in a different way. We have internet, better satellites, etc. So let's use this heritage of Kuklinski, and he is a symbol of Polish, but not only Polish presence in NATO, and let's stick together.
Um, switching gears, I have not seen the film Jack Strong. I'm aware it's out there, but this guest wants to know how true to the real events is the film Jack Strong. Have you seen it, Philip?
I have seen it, and I have worked on this movie. I mean, partly. I mean, this is a very good movie. Of course, this is a piece of art. And it has only 1 hour and 45 or 50 minutes. So there are some shortcuts. For example, let me present one. I mean, there was no such a situation in Soviet Russia when um, Leonid Brezhnev, it means the party, uh, uh, doesn't doesn't know what is going on in the army. I mean, because Brezhnev is asking a question to Marshal Kulikov. What you're doing in Poland, and what your plans for Poles in the Warsaw Pact? So there was no such a situation, but it was an important scene in the movie. But still, it doesn't influence on the whole story. Very, very good movie.
Oh, good. Good. I will add it to my list. Um, this is a question for me, which is what do we have in the museum concerning Poland? We have some things in our collection that are not on display, but one of, I'd say, the key ways that we talk about Poland is the incredible contribution of the Polish code breakers to breaking Enigma. And we are very devoted to making sure that, Alan Turing and Bletchley Park are recognized for what they did. But as you know, Sir Dermot Turing, Alan Turing's nephew, always makes it very clear that the code breakers in England were standing on the shoulders of these amazing code breakers and mathematicians from Poland. So I wanted to make I always like to get that story out there. And then this is our last question. One of our frequent guests and members wants to know, How and has Poland changed since the war in Ukraine?
Hmm. I mean, we stand on this very strong position that no matter what the relation, for example, between Kiev and Warsaw is personal, I would even say, we must and want to help Ukraine because to stop Russian imperialism. So we also helped. Helped Ukrainians in Poland. I mean, we were the gate to freedom for them, especially women and children. So it is, and everyone in Poland did this. I mean, opened their houses and
Mm.
gave money, gave job. And many other things. I was traveling. I was gathering money here in museum for to buy pickups pickup cars and went to Ukraine to give it to Ukrainian army. So geopolitically, I think Polish position and also the border between Poland and Ukraine have a huge influence on this war.
Well, thank you so much. And Philip, this has been an incredible pleasure. I am very devoted to the story of Colonel and now General Kuklinski, and I really love to get the peek at the museum. I hope to someday get back to Warsaw and see it in person. I really want to thank our lovely. Did you want to say anything before we wrap up, Katarzyna?
Well, thank you so much. Maybe just one last sentence. Yes, please go visit Warsaw as often as possible, especially since it's springtime already, and Warsaw is just beautiful in spring. And in particular, of course, please visit the Cold War Museum. Thank you so much for a wonderful session today.
Oh, yes, and it really is, I know I'm familiar with the area where the museum is, it's quite extraordinary. So thanks, everyone, thanks for spending some time with us, we had a great audience, we had great questions. Someone just said, "I'll be in Warsaw in September, and I'll stop by." So that's terrific, that's what we want, and, we'll be posting this on YouTube, and we'll be including the tour as part of the finished program for anyone who wants to see it again or check that out. And please look at our website for our calendar. We have all sorts of programs and podcasts and uh, events coming up, including one tomorrow on current affairs at noon. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you both so much, but especially Philip, because you had to do all the hard work.
Amanda, thank you very much. I would like to say thank you for the arrangements of this session, this program, also to your team, especially
Yes.
many thanks to Executive Director Colonel Chris Costa and to all International Spy Museum subscribers that were attending and sharing this beautiful time with us.
Take care. Enjoy spring wherever you are, or fall if you're elsewhere.